Fat people are funny.
Fat people are lazy.
Fat people eat cake with 2 hands.
Fat people are shy.
Fat people will never fall in love or have relationships.
Fat people smell.
Fat people are sloppy.
Fat people can't take care of themselves.
Fat people don't deserve to have kids.
Fat people lack willpower.
Fat people are worthless.
Fat people are stupid.
Fat people are sick and unhealthy, and they're going to die.
That was brutal, right?
Yeah.
Brutal.
Obviously, we do not believe these things. But if you were an alien and all you knew about fat people was what you learned from our popular culture, you would believe that fat people were both literally and figuratively monsters.
In movies and television, fat people are relegated to very specific roles. They commonly embody the villain, the butt of the joke, hypersexual or asexual, uneducated, lazy, single, and always the best friend, never the hero.
In the news media, fat people are most often represented without a face. Activist Charlotte Cooper called these faceless fat bodies headless fatties because they are merely dehumanized objects for us to project ideas onto. These assumptions and prejudices about fat people are culturally invisible. Hi, I'm Lindsey Averill.
And I'm Viridiana Lieberman, and we are the directors of a film named Fattitude. Fattitude is a 90-minute feature-length film about how popular culture, like movies, television shows, news media, and music, create a cultural climate where fat people are suffering, brutalized, and subject to prejudice and shame.
Fattitude is part of an activist movement that looks to inform people about the harsh and very real realities that fat bodies face. Consider this.
So we've done several national studies looking at the prevalence of weight discrimination compared to other forms of discrimination. And what we see is that it's very common. Among women, it's one of the top 3 forms of discrimination reported. Among men, I think it's number 4. But what's interesting is that for women, weight discrimination is really on par with levels of racial discrimination. And when we think about that, that's really striking. This form of discrimination is really not treated as a legitimate form of discrimination.
When we're talking about the injustice that fat people face, we're talking about quantifiable systemic prejudice. So, for example, 43% of fat people report experiencing weight bias from their employers and supervisors.
Fat people are paid $1.25 less than their thin counterparts.
50% of school principals associate or believe the fat body is caused by a lack of self-control and psychological problems.
69% of fat people report experiencing discrimination from their doctors.
In fact, 1 in 3 doctors specifically associates the fat body with hostility, dishonesty, and poor hygiene.
92% of adolescents report witnessing bullying and teasing of fat peers.
Perhaps that's because in 64% of children's videos, fatness is associated with negative traits.
And 72% of representations of fat people in the news are demoralizing.
We know what you're thinking.
Trust us, we have heard it.
You're sitting there and you're thinking, I get the injustice, but fatness is a problem that needs to be solved. Fat people could or should change. It's a choice.
But is fatness a choice? Lose weight, they say. There was a moment during the filming of Fattitude where we, 2 now fully recovered chronic dieters, were unlocked.
Unblocked.
Working with people across the weight spectrum, I can connect these dots that a lot of people don't get to see. So I see this person who is at this end of the weight spectrum, who's disappearing, and feeling like, I can't take up any space, I can't take up any space, I can't take up any space. And, the world is sort of appalled at this and like, oh no, we need to help you, person with anorexia. And yet, if you're in a bigger body, all the very same behaviors that we're saying are eating disordered over here are what we prescribe over here. So, you're obsessed with your weight, you're jumping on and off the scale, you're logging everything you eat, you can't think of anything but food all day long. Well, if you're in a bigger body, we want you to do that.
If If dieting is practicing mental illness, how is that helping anyone?
Furthermore, dieting is a resounding failure. Look it up. 98% of people who lose weight dieting gain it back, and most of those people gain back more than they lost. Bodies come in all different sizes. Just like dogs come in different breeds, humans come in different shapes. Some of us will never be thin, and we should not have to be thin to be respected.
Even if it was a choice, is it really okay to encourage a world where people are treated unfairly? Doing the work we do, we've received letters from fat people who have suffered their entire lives. People who say when they watched our trailer, it was the first time they realized they had the right to feel valuable, that they deserve respect no matter what.
We want to believe in this ugly climate of putting down identity politics, that there is still room in our culture to understand that it's not okay and it's not healthy for people to feel shame and misery around the size and shape of their body. It's not okay for you or me to police what someone looks like, what they eat, or how they exercise. That is up to them.
So what can you do to help support a world that isn't shaming fat people and contributing to weight bias? Here are 7 things to create change.
First, embrace your size. So one of the ways we can embrace our bodies as they are now, rather than as we wish they were, is to let go of tributes and relics to a time when our body was a different shape or size. So, for example, throw out your skinny jeans. You don't need those. Start doing and having fun and buying things for your body as it is now, not 10 or 20 or 100 pounds from now. Have you always wanted to go to the pool and wear a bathing suit, but you thought you needed to be thinner to do that? Nope! Fat people can go to the pool. You'll be fine.
Swimming is amazing.
Take a deep breath and leap. Your body is spectacular. Don't put off your life. Live now.
Second, you can't be it if you can't see it. The mainstream media's perpetuation of a very thin, very smooth, and most often very white, virtually unattainable beauty ideal is one of the reasons why most people constantly feel they aren't worthy of respect.
That's crap.
While the mainstream media continues to do a pretty bad job at presenting bodily variation, the internet and social media sites have become thriving spaces for body positivity. So what we're saying is, read body positive blogs, flood your social media with body positive voices, and know that quite quickly, you will realize that bodies come in infinite variation, and they are all worthy of respect, including yours.
Third, support body positive organizations and retailers. Let's face it, money talks. So no matter what size you are, you should be supporting businesses that service clients of all shapes and sizes and that don't feature body-shaming tactics in their advertising. Supporting body-positive businesses lets your dollars speak the change you want to see in the world.
Fourth, break up with dieting. This is a scary one, we know.
We've been there.
When we say break up with dieting, we don't mean eat junk food and never consider health. We mean stop torturing your body and start loving it. Eat with body love in mind. Eat foods that nourish your body, and listen when something you eat makes you feel unhappy or uncomfortable. Also, smash your scale.
At the very least, throw it in the dumpster.
Stop obsessing over the amount of pounds or stones you weigh. Nothing good comes from weighing yourself. Numbers on a scale very rarely equate to long-term joy.
Fifth, declare your fatness. So we feel bad about being called fat because we've been shamed into believing that being fat is unacceptable. This is exactly what we're working on, right? So normalizing the idea that there are fat bodies, there will always be fat bodies, and that's totally okay. One of the ways that we can go about doing this is by recognizing the word fat is just a descriptor. So, you know, kind of short, short-haired, blue-eyed, wearing a black jacket, doing a TED Talk.
So go ahead, call yourself fat. Maybe write a blog post or a status update about your claim to fatness.
Let people know that being fat is just factual, not shameful.
6, spread the message of body love. This one is simple. Spread the word. Talk to your friends about the body love you feel or that great body positive article you came across. Don't just like it. Click the little button that says share and become a part of how the message spreads. Oh, and the next time you see fat hate, name it. It's not always easy to stand up, but it's necessary. You don't have to be aggressive or brash. You don't have to make enemies. You just have to say, hey, friend, when you write or talk like that, you affirm the existence of fat hate and body shame, and I'd rather we not do that.
One tip we learned along the way is that when someone says something unacceptable or tells a prejudiced joke, instead of trying to argue with them, look at them and say, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean. How is that funny? Most often they'll serve the lesson to themselves.
And finally, 7th, create your own media. Take a good look around body positive circles and you'll realize that the voices clamoring for change aren't that different from you. The movement we're a part of is everyday people of all races, sexualities, religions, and economic strata saying we will no longer stand for how our culture mistreats fat bodies. You can join the conversation. Share your story. Start a YouTube channel or a blog.
You having a great day? You love your outfit? You had a really good experience, body positive experience at your job? Take a selfie, post it, and tell people why. It's not just our job to create body positive media. It's your job too.
Yeah, I mean, we're up here talking, but this is not a movement about 2 women on stage. This is about a multitude of voices. There is a fleet of incredible activists doing vital work. You can be the body positive thing someone sees.
For a cultural shift to take place, people need to change the way they see and feel about fat bodies. So let's start right now. Fat bodies love to swim.
Fat people love to ride bikes.
Fat people, this one right here, love Brussels sprouts.
So much. So much. Favorite. Fat people love to dance.
It's true. Fat people are married.
Fat people have kids.
Fat people are artists.
Fat people are teachers.
Fat people wear pea coats.
I do. I love them. Fat people are cool.
Fat people make movies.
Fat people are activists.
Everybody deserves respect.